A little over 2 weeks ago, Cryptic Studios, known for developing the hit massively multiplayer online role-playing game, or MMORPG, City of Heroes, released Star Trek Online, the studio's second major MMO release in less than 6 months. With the return of interest in the Star Trek franchise, thanks to last year's blockbuster film, as well as a very fervent fan base and a wealth of backstory to draw upon, nothing could go wrong, right? Right?
We've lost most of our crew, and we need help now!
The fate of the galaxy rests in your hands.
Star Trek Online is pretty. No, actually, it's better looking than pretty. It's one of the best looking MMOs on the market. But you don't actually get to see how pretty it is until you've created your character. Players choose between 3 professions which determine the way you advance throughout the game. For sheer combat ability, the tactical profession is the best, but arguably the least fun to play, as the other 2 classes get much cooler abilities. After that, players can choose their alien race or create their own. Character creation is visually extremely robust. Cryptic are known for their versatile creators, and this is no exception. You can literally spend hours messing around to make something truly unique. Or you can hit random and play with whatever, because you're only going to be looking at your character about 20% of the time. It kind of seems like a cruel joke that you can make something so versatile, and then spend almost the entire game looking instead at a spaceship. The game's introduction gives you a glimpse of some of the gorgeous areas you'll be visiting, but it's not until you're flying between the cracks of an exploded planet, or dodging your way through a dense asteroid field that you really take notice of the scenery. Visually, Star Trek Online is currently tough to beat. Star Trek Online is broken down into 2 major parts, the space stuff and the ground stuff. Space is pretty fun. You're in control of a ship and you go around completing quests known in this game as episodes. Usually episodes involve blasting enemy ships until they explode and their hapless crew is sucked into the vacuum of space. Even though combat, for all intents and purposes, takes place on a 2D plane, it rarely feels that way. That said, it's not super complex, and it boils down to mashing your attack buttons while facing your opponent's weak point. Player versus player space combat is a little more involved, and requires the use of your special abilities, as well as those of the officers you gain as you play. Ground combat, on the other hand, is pretty terrible. It's fast-paced but clunky and oversimplified, and feels detached. Actions you perform seem to have a delay before your character performs them, and as a result, you never feel very involved. On top of this, ground missions later in the game tend to stretch on longer than they really need to and never change. Compared to other games, where dungeons have a feeling of progression, ground missions in Star Trek Online are flat and clumsy, and I found myself sighing every time I realized I was about to do one. Ground PvP is quite similar, except with a lot more dodge rolling, and it's arguably less fun. The way episodes are structured means that any quests you're on are completely independent of each other. As a result, sometimes you get a quest where you are beamed down to a completely unpopulated planet to pick up debris in a dust storm. Then you leave. That's it. Death has no penalty, regardless of whether you're on the ground or in space, so most situations can be brute forced with absolutely no tactics or planning. The game actively discourages exploration. Landing on a planet means you're only able to wander around in a very small area, and trying to explore beyond that is prevented by invisible walls that completely encircle the zone. On top of this, if you encounter an area you like, once you complete the mission there, you can't revisit it, you're locked out. I guess they take this whole going where no man has gone before thing very seriously.
Target shields have failed.
There are lots of Star Trek references that the hardcore Trekkies will certainly get a kick out of, and there are a lot of features, such as auto-grouping, that trivialize some of the usual MMO hurdles. But even by MMO standards, Star Trek Online is repetitive. It's pretty, and it has a potential to grow, but with a sloppy ground combat and isolated episode structure, all but the hardcore Trek fans may look to other MMOs. I fear Star Trek Online may not live long or prosper. For more colorful commentary, check out the written review at IGN.com.